Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Elaine Petrucci, and I'm your host today for our Boundaries Masterclass. I'm really excited about this masterclass today because boundaries are so important when you're caregiving. You need to establish where you start and where somebody else and where you end. And by doing so, you're kind of creating a bubble around yourself to let people know how close that they can be to you. And those boundaries will change depending upon how intimate we are with another person. So let's start today. It's really important to have healthy boundaries in any relationship. It needs to be clear for not only you as a caregiver, it has to be clear for the person that you're giving care to. So let's just find out what we need here. Brene Brown states, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. And that is so true. If somebody wants to be close to us and we're not ready for that interaction, then you need to stand up for yourself. And setting those boundaries is really critical to your well-being. Let's define boundaries. Boundaries protect a person's personal or mental space, much like fences between neighbors. They involve the physical and emotional limits of appropriate behavior between people and help define where one person ends and the other person begins. My question to you today is, do you struggle with setting boundaries? You're not alone. Mental health professionals and self-help gurus put a lot of emphasis on boundaries because they are the foundation of healthy relationships and a strong sense of self-worth. Boundaries serve two main functions. Boundaries tell others how you want to be treated, what's okay and what's not okay. Boundaries protect you from being mistreated. Boundaries create a healthy separation, physical and emotional, between you and others. Boundaries allow you to have your own personal space and privacy, your own feelings, thoughts, needs, and ideas. Boundaries allow you to be yourself rather than an extension of someone else or who someone else wants you to be. If you didn't grow up with clear and consistent boundaries or expectations, they probably don't come naturally to you. You may feel guilty or unjustified in asking for what you want or need. You can untwist your negative beliefs about boundaries and learn to set them without feeling guilty. Let's now look at some principles of boundaries. Boundaries are your values, expectations, principles, or limits that you establish to keep yourself feeling safe physically, emotionally, and mentally. Setting healthy boundaries is permitting yourself to be you. It communicates what you stand for, what you are willing to do, and what you will never do. Let's look at why boundaries are so important. They communicate your needs and expectations, help you assert what you're okay or not okay with, protect you from being mistreated or taken advantage of. They help you improve your mental health and mood. It's so important to understand the importance of boundaries because without limits, it's hard to be self-aware and independent. You may feel suffocated and unable to express your true feelings and needs, and you may feel resentful and exhausted. Boundaries are good for everyone. Boundaries make relationships easier. Intimate relationships and friendships are easier when both parties are clear about needs and expectations. When we don't set boundaries, we often become resentful and angry, which isn't a good thing for us or our relationships. Boundaries communicate our needs and expectations, and it is kind, not selfish, to tell others how you want to be treated, what you need, and what you expect. Let's switch gears for a moment and look at the common fears about setting boundaries. There's a fear of angering other people. There's a fear of disappointing others, a fear of being seen as difficult or selfish, fear of being mean, and the fear of ruining relationships. Let's look at each of those individually. We don't want to be seen as difficult or selfish. Most of us were taught the importance of being good girls or good boys, and that we need to be agreeable, kind, and selfless. The message we received when we were children was often that we had to be good or even perfect, or our parents and others wouldn't love or want us. As a result, we feel like we have to make other people happy, or at least not displease them. And we became people pleasers. Here we compromise our boundaries out of fear. We consistently put other people's needs before our own. We sacrifice our right to safety, respect, individuation, and the freedom to be ourselves, which essentially tells others that their needs are more important than ours, and they can mistreat us or get what they want. Boundaries serve to protect us. The best way to regain control over your life and reduce your feelings of overwhelm and stress is to set boundaries as a caregiver. When you don't set boundaries, you take on too many projects, you give or loan money that you can't afford, go out of your way to help others who may not want or appreciate it, and you also enable others by doing things for them that they can do. And it allows others to mistreat or take advantage of you. Boundaries create a healthy physical and/or emotional separation between you and other people. When you don't have clear boundaries, you are vulnerable to absorbing other people's feelings and problems, and you may feel responsible for fixing them. You become reactive, feeling as if everything is on fire and you must single-handedly put it out. You become paralyzed and unable to make decisions and solve problems. While life may still present inevitable challenges and tragedies, boundaries can insulate you from negative energy, toxic people, external stress that comes from people and situations that you can't control. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They are a healthy way of showing others how you want to be treated, and they help you feel safe. Boundaries include communicating your thoughts, feelings, and needs, and how you want to be treated. Saying no to things you don't want to do or don't have the resources to do. Being aware of your feelings and allowing yourself to feel differently than others. Pursuing your own goals and interests. Prioritizing your self-care, which is one of the most important things for a caregiver to do. Having personal space and privacy, and having the ability to leave situations that are harmful to you. You want to begin sharing personal information gradually based on your comfort level and how well you know and trust someone. Recognizing which problems are yours to solve and which belong to others. Allowing others to make their own decisions. Not trying to change, fix, or rescue others from difficult situations or feelings. Some examples of healthy boundaries include being able to say no and accept when somebody else says no. No means no excuse, no apology. Being able to clearly communicate both wants and needs. Honoring and respecting your own needs and the needs of others. Respecting others' values, beliefs, and opinions, even if they're different from your own. Feeling free to disclose and share information where appropriate. And it allows you to be flexible. However, do not compromise yourself in any unhealthy way. Let's look at some examples of unhealthy boundaries. Having a difficult time saying no. Having trouble accepting no from others. Not clearly communicating one's needs and wants. Easily compromising personal values, beliefs, and opinions to satisfy others. Being coercive or manipulative to get others to do something they don't want to do. Oversharing personal information. And unhealthy boundaries can quickly turn into abuse. Abuse, whether it's physical, sexual, or emotional, is a violation of boundaries. Let me repeat that. Abuse, whether physical, sexual, or emotional, is a violation of boundaries. When unhealthy boundaries become abusive, we want to look at a situation. If you're currently in a relationship where your partner is violating your physical safety, exerting excessive control of your life, constantly scaring you, preventing you from doing reasonable things you like to do, and forcing you to do things that you don't want to do. If you or someone you care about is being abused, please don't hesitate to call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or text START to 88788. Let's look at the different types of boundaries. Physical boundaries protect your space and your body. They tell others how close they can get to you, what kind of physical touch, if any, is okay, how much privacy you need, and how to behave in your personal space. So as you can see in the picture, the person in red has this circle that indicates his physical boundaries, and people need to respect those. Physical boundaries clearly define that your body and personal space belong to you. Some examples: if someone sits too close to you, you move away or say, "I need a little more personal space." We don't keep or consume alcohol in our house. Now, let's look at sexual boundaries. Sexual boundaries protect your right to consent, to ask for what you like sexually, and honesty about your partner's sexual history. Sexual boundaries define what kind of sexual touch and intimacy you want, how often, when, where, and with whom. Examples include, "I like to be touched like this." Louis has a personal policy of not having sex on the first date. Let's turn to emotional or mental boundaries. Emotional or mental boundaries protect your right to have your own feelings and thoughts, to not have your feelings criticized or invalidated, and to not have to take care of other people's feelings. Emotional boundaries allow us to create safety by respecting each other's feelings and not oversharing inappropriate personal information. Examples include, "I don't feel comfortable discussing this." "I feel embarrassed and powerless when you chastise me in front of our kids. I'd like you to stop." Spiritual or religious boundaries protect your right to believe in what you want, worship as you wish, and practice your spiritual or religious beliefs. Examples: "I'm going to take a moment and say a silent prayer before we eat." Paul goes to church alone because his partner doesn't share his beliefs. Let's look at financial and material boundaries. Financial and material boundaries protect your financial resources and possessions. To not give or loan your money or possessions if you don't want to, and your right to be paid by an employer as agreed. Examples include, I'm on a budget, so I brought my lunch from home and won't be ordering lunch today. Please don't borrow my car without asking. And yes, there are time boundaries. Time boundaries protect how you spend your time. They protect you from agreeing to do things you don't want to do, having people waste your time, and being overworked. Examples include, I reserve my evenings for family time. I'll respond to all work emails first thing in the morning. Dad, I don't have time to take you shopping this week. I'll place an order for you with the grocery delivery service. And we finally arrive at some non-negotiable boundaries. And these are definitely boundaries we will not violate in any way because it would go against our values and our beliefs. Non-negotiable boundaries are deal breakers, things that you absolutely must have in order to feel safe. They usually pertain to safety issues such as physical violence, emotional abuse, drug or alcohol use, fidelity, and life-threatening health issues. Some examples include, Mom, if you don't install a fence around your pool, my children will not be able to come to your house. This son or daughter will take care of their children first and will not allow them to see their grandmother if a fence isn't around the pool, because there might be an accidental drowning. Infidelity is a deal breaker for me, and I will not continue in this relationship if you cheat on me. Let's just take a moment and discuss a note about non-negotiable boundaries. We all need some non-negotiable boundaries. We also need to be careful that we don't put too many of our financial, spiritual, physical, emotional, or mental boundaries in this category. You must, under no circumstance, change your non-negotiable boundaries, or if you're not going to enforce them, because at that point you need to reconsider whether they really are non-negotiable. Now that we've talked about the different types of boundaries that we can be setting up and for our safety, and to let people know where we start and end and where they start and end. Let's look at 6 steps to setting boundaries. Keep the focus on your feelings and needs. Setting a boundary is about communicating what you need and expect. In the process, it may be important to gently call out someone's hurtful behavior, but that should not be the focus. Focusing on what someone has done wrong is likely to make them defensive. Instead, lead with how you feel and what you need. So, for example, I feel demeaned when you talk to me like that. I'd appreciate it if you could talk to me on an adult level so that we can best communicate with one another. You need to be direct. Sometimes in an effort to be kind, we're wishy-washy and don't clearly ask for what we want or need. You want to be very specific. Ask for exactly what you want or need. Specificity makes it easier for the other person to understand your perspective and what you're asking for. Use a neutral tone of voice. Your tone of voice may be even more important than your choice of words, so pay attention to what you're saying as much as what you're saying. So, for example, if you're asking for help and someone is talking to you in a demeaning way, and because you need more clarification about their thought process, you have the right just to stay neutral, take a deep breath, stay neutral, and use a calm tone of voice. You will be heard more effectively, and you will be able to get your point across to someone else by not using an angry tone of voice. Try to avoid yelling, sarcasm, cursing, or other signs of anger or contempt. This turns people off from your message, and they'll stop listening and start defending. Again, a neutral tone of voice and starting the conversation with, I feel that. You need to choose the right time. You want to avoid the temptation to impulsively say things without considering whether the timing is right. Choose a time when you're both calm, sober, well-rested, and not distracted by television, phone, other people, or problems. There may not be a perfect time to discuss boundaries, and if you wait too long, you run the risk of having resentments pile up. So choose the best possible time. Finally, you want to consider the other person's needs. When you're setting boundaries with someone you care about, you'll have to consider the other person's needs. Sometimes compromise is appropriate, but being mindful that you're not the only one compromising and that you're not giving up what's most important to you. People pleasers sometimes concede rather than compromise, which is why we need boundaries. For example, you don't want to go to the grocery store, nor do you have time to do it at someone else's specific time frame. You can say many different things. However, an example would be, I can't go to the grocery store at the time that you recommended. However, I can do it later in the day, or I can do it tomorrow. Which option is best for you? So you're giving them two choices, and you're allowing them to decide what would work best for not only you, but them. Let's look at some benefits of setting boundaries. You avoid burnout, something as caregivers do because they don't set boundaries. Doing too much for too many is an easy way to burn out. Setting boundaries can prevent burnout. There's less resentment. Giving and helping others like you do with your clients is a strength. But when it turns into doing too much for others, you may begin to feel resentful. Setting boundaries can reduce or eliminate resentment. Setting boundaries makes it a more beneficial, more balanced approach for the caregiver or for anyone for that matter. Sometimes the boundaries we need to set are with ourselves. For example, while it can feel like a nice escape to binge watch a favorite show, staying up too late on work nights can lead to exhaustion. Setting a boundary with yourself to go to bed earlier may provide more balance. Let's look at setting boundaries with partners. You want to resist reactivity. Again, set the tone for the talk by being calm. If you're angry, upset, and aggravated, it may trigger your partner to become reactive and defensive for that matter. So it's best to step back and pick a time when you're both relaxed and receptive to the conversation. Avoid saying you to a partner. It can sound accusatory and put your partner on the defensive. If you start every sentence with you did or you do, think about your choice of words and again, use a calm, even tone. Put down the phone. Be fully present with your partner. It may be best to put your phones on silence and flip them over for a few minutes. Incoming messages and notifications can be tempting to check. Give your partner your full attention, and they will be more likely to do the same with you. As caregivers, we're looking at setting boundaries with our parents because many of you are working full-time and possibly raising a family. You want to be respectful. Set the tone for the conversation by being respectful. Think of an opportunity to come to them as a confident adult. So, for example, you may want to talk about your parents' financial planning. You may want to start the conversation with, I know that you have been really good about your ability to save for retirement and to plan for things in the future. Would you be able to share some of your knowledge with me? Have the discussion to begin with. Like I just mentioned, you want to make sure you have like all of those financial, legal, and medical documentation completed before there is an emergency. So the example I just gave to you about asking a parent about their skills in financial planning in order to help you is one way of doing that and allowing them to be more receptive down the line to being asked about whether or not all those documentation of legal, medical, and insurance are all in place. When you have the discussion to begin with, one study indicated that when adult children took a passive approach to parental problems, it increased their depression. Instead, sit down and have a calm, rational discussion. Stay calm and cool. Parents may react or get upset during the conversation. When you can't control the choices they make, you control your response. If you stay cool and calm, they may too. Keep it simple. Pick a small number of things to address, such as the one that is most bothering you, and focus on that. Let's look at ways to help you set boundaries with friends. Again, it's all about setting the tone, staying calm, being kind, using I in your sentences. This sets the tone for the conversation and can lead to more positive outcomes. Avoid ghosting. Well, it can be hard to deal with someone directly. Avoid ghosting a friend prevents them from knowing the issue. Avoiding the issue altogether means they can't grow from the experience, and it doesn't allow you the opportunity to practice healthy boundaries. I hope this one has hit home. Avoiding the issue altogether means your friend can't grow from the experience, and it doesn't allow you the opportunity to practice healthy boundaries. Avoid gossiping. Well, it can be tempting to discuss your friendship frustration with mutual friends. This can get back to your friend and potentially hurt them. Let's look at some boundaries at work. Set boundaries for yourself. In today's virtual world, the lines between work and home have been increasingly blurred. Set a distinguishable stop time, close your computer, and take breaks. Look at the chain of command. Be mindful of the chain of command at work. If you're having a problem with a colleague or manager and you can't speak to them directly, look for your organization's chain of command, and you could do that through your HR department. Again, avoid gossiping. It can be tempting to discuss the problem with other colleagues, but this can backfire. It's better to address the issue directly, but calmly with the other person. If possible and appropriate, involve a manager or supervisor. All right. I thought it would be really helpful if we did some boundary exercises together. So when you're ready, let's get started. Here we go. Like we've been mentioning, use I statements. I feel demeaned when you say things like, don't you get this? Why don't you understand? When that happens, I feel blank. When that happens and you make me feel demeaned, I feel demeaned. When you say that, I feel demeaned. Again, use your I statements. Very, very helpful. You can also buy yourself some time. I'm not sure about that right now. Can I come to you once I thought about it? Or I need more time to think, but I will get back to you. When you're feeling disrespected, use statements such as, I don't like the way I'm being spoken to right now. Or, I would like to talk about this, but this is not the right time. Or the third option is, I would prefer to discuss this when we can become calmer about this. And when you want to say no with a little bit more explanation, you could say, I'd love to, but my plate is really full right now. I would if I could, but I'm unable to help with that right now. I really appreciate the invitation, but I'm not interested in participating. No is a complete sentence. You can just say no, or you can offer one of these three options to kind of buffer that no response that you will be giving to the other person. Always, 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 in any boundary situation, seek consent, especially with sexual boundaries. And ask, are you okay with this? Do you want to continue? Are you uncomfortable if I touch you this way? All right, we have done a lot of work today and a lot of discussion about boundaries, because boundaries, especially in caregiving, are so critical. A caregiver needs to set those boundaries for self-care, time for their own activities, and book all of that in on a calendar with the person that they're taking care of. It's calendar so that there is clear expectation from each person about how much time will be spent in that caregiving role. In summary, boundaries are the limits of appropriate behavior between people. Personal boundaries define where one person ends and the other begins. Boundaries affect intimate relationships, families, and colleagues in a work environment. Setting relationship boundaries can be challenging, but the boundaries ensure the relationship is healthy for everyone. Let's wrap this up by saying, how would things be different for you if you set boundaries? Would there be less stress? Would you be more present? Would you stay more centered? Be more confident? And be able to create joy and ease in your life as well as the person you're caring for's life? I want you to break those chains, to do more, be more, and live more. Caregiving is an incredible career and opportunity to serve others. I want you to take the time to set boundaries, put self-care in the time that you're working with others so that you can become the person that you want to be. If you want to learn how to create effective boundaries and influence your outcome in any situation, including the caregiving role that you have, book a free discovery chat with me now. Here is my Calendly link so that you can book 30 minutes with me. It's just a discovery call, lets me get to know you and where you need assistance with boundaries so that I can best support you in your caregiving journey. If you would like some ongoing support, you can get in touch with me at the Caregiver Lifeline Academy. You can book yourself a call, a free discovery call at my Calendly link as shown on the screen, or you can email me. I want to thank you for attending this Boundaries workshop. It's given you a lot of fantastic information to think about in your specific situation. And if you have any questions or concerns about what you're experiencing with boundaries, please give me a call. Please reach out. I want you to know that I see you, I hear you, and I feel you. I've been there before. I know what you're going through, and I want to help you have a more rewarding caregiving journey. Thank you. Thank you again for being here today for our Wednesday Masterclass on boundaries. We discussed a lot of different boundaries: sexual, spiritual, work, time, physical, emotional, and mental boundaries, what you can do to ensure that you establish healthy boundaries, and ways that you can set boundaries when you're talking with another person. Please get in touch with me at my Calendly link, which is www.calendly.com/Mary Elaine, all one word, /30 minutes. Please contact me. I would love to know how I can best serve you. See you next week.